question, this is your answer. Pick the Xayah away, don't give it to Papa. That being said, the Olaf is a pain point for me. I think that this jungler is absolute trash right now. It has one of the lowest win rates and it's so hard to execute. It's so demanding because even when you get a hit, you still need your team to kind of play around you. You're going to be diving in, right? You're going to need support from your team. I'm going to add the caveat that this game, the Olaf has dive buddy. You have the Galio to join in with you to keep them in place, and you have the Akali that's looking to jump into the backline as well. So as far as, I slammed the Olaf pick, it might be decent this game.
Well, let's pay attention to the Olaf as we go into our second game in this BO5, as mid lane already sees a good amount of damage on the Yahtzee. The Ignite comes through, the barrier comes out as well. Just respond in turn there. It looks like a repeat of last game, if I'm being honest. Just a lot of pressure on this Orianna. Of course, the Galio has quite a bit of burst potential early on. Let's see how this Olaf pans out. I'm very curious. We talk so much about jungle pickups, I think, Hungry. Between me and you, we always talk about these jungle matchups. I'm a big this advocate, I'm not sure if that's the correct word, for Vi. I don't like to see Vi very much, and I don't think you like to see Olaf very much. And I think there's some good reason for that. Why fix something that's not broken? There's so much power in the Lee Sins of the world, in the Wukongs of the world. Why try to, or the Javas, why try to fix something that isn't broken?
You don't, again, it boils down to what your composition wants to do. I think Trevor here is very comfortable playing aggressive. He likes to be, in the thick of things, Death Dance, first item, kind of make life hell for the enemy jungler. So in this case, I could see why they favor the Olaf so much. It's just a comfort pick that suits his playstyle. The problem is when it comes down to drafting around it, right? Because now you're locked into drafting things that can dive the Olaf, that can present a threat together of the Olaf, and Team Secret at least identify it this time. We talked a lot about the Team Secret draft. On the MVP side, this is, not very different from what they brought in Game 1. They still have the core of the Lee Sin as well as the Orianna. Their composition, however, brings a lot more disengage this time. They have the Braum and they have the Gragas. So these are tools that they want to make use of in team fights to kind of reset the fight and get a good angle back in after Team Secret has thrown all their big ticket ultimates, because perfect execution as well as hero's entrance are like on a 1.5 minute cooldown.
And so it's difficult for them to find a repeat gank once they've expanded, or rather a re-entry into the fight once they've expended most of those big spells. Even in this early game, as you take a look down towards the dragon side right now, Trevor hovering towards and what looks like a dive, but it's difficult to execute because David still has all his summoners and so does Papa, and they have so much to get away from. Meanwhile, up towards the top side, Azar might just go down. It's going to be the Sonic Resonating Strike. They get this, they get the damage. It's one more hit away as the Akali dashes back away with the flawless execution, drops into the Twilight Shroud, does not go down, and Pagor could not find the kill to start off the fight.
That is an insane escape coming from Azar. Borderline illegal, the fact that he got away with his life. And it takes so much time away from Pagor to just focus on the top side. The response here from Trevor has to be aggressive. He has to go in and set vision down on the enemy half of the jungle, get something done, because his top lane has done his job. His Baron laner has absorbed all the pressure. He has survived. He has collected as much EXP and gold in that 2v1 play as much as possible to now allow for the rest of Team Secret to get some space.
Dives right in between their feet there, gets out, and so you talk about how Trevor has to get somewhat of a lead, somewhat of an advantage, make use of his time. He's not really doing that, just going to keep farming up his camps. On the alternative, I do think this is, on the flip side, I do think this is quite reasonable, especially since he is going to be that Olaf. He wants to try and scale up as quickly as he can, pick up his items, and then could look to posture for this dragon. We saw what happened last game. MVP were in much better control of this early dragons. Team Secret had a difficult time trying to contest them, and they lost a lot of the fights towards that side. I want to see if Team Secret can maybe turn things around in game number 2, but as we say that, looks like a bit of a collapse coming in towards the dragon from Team Secret, so yeah, it looks like they are looking to prioritize this time around.
They are looking for the setup because they do have the quickness and the grand entrance from James. If anyone on MVP oversteps, if they check too far ahead, Team Secret can force these fights and then look to control the area around with the hero's entrance as well as the Featherstorm. So there's a lot of area denials, kind of ultimates on the side of Team Secret, right? Which is why they feel so safe taking this Mountain Dragon.
Okay, but very little information as to where MVP is exactly. They're just gonna try to walk in, looking to try and deny this. Glacier Fissure gonna be used. They get the knockout back onto the Orianna. Orianna over, oh, but rather Pego by the side. They jump out. Heroic Entrance is gonna be used just to get some more control to the back end of the Dragon Pit. They force MVP off. They get the Dragon, so Team Secret come up with Hendrix exchange.
They get the Mountain Dragon, but this is a window here for MVP to force something as they jump onto James.
Lots of damage onto the Rakan, and Chewie now gonna be on the bad end of the stick. They find some return damage back onto Papa, but it's mostly just gonna be off the turret, so they cannot do too much, and I don't think they can stay in this lane anymore. Just gonna have to give up a lot of control. Look at this, 4-man collapse towards the bomb side. They wanna pick up this turret quickly.
The problem is Tatsuri used his hero's entrance at the end of that Mountain Dragon, so now they get the first blood. MVP very wisely collapsed on the bottom side, knowing that there's no power here for Team Secret.
Trevor joins into the bottom fight. Papa might just go down. Good damage onto David. The 8-9 taken away. He goes down. It's claimed by Tatsuri. Meanwhile, Papa just walks out, burns both his summoner spells, but it's a good exchange. They managed to find quite a bit there.
More importantly, Team Secret keep that Dragon Tier 1 alive. If that goes down, the rotation is instantaneous for MVP because they get bonus gold to buy with and they can start prepping for the Rift Herald. So Team Secret, they hold on, but MVP has a massive lead in terms of tempo right now because they're the ones that are rotating up to Rift Herald. They're going to get control, they're going to get vision, they have all their ultimates up, whereas look at this, Tatsuri, still quite a ways away from the hero's entrance. This is a window that teams like Flash Wolves exploit so well, and I think MVP, after playing against Flash Wolves, learned that this is a window that they should be exploiting as well.
Rift Herald coming up. Let's see if they can go for this. Glacier Fissure already used Chewie. It looks like he's going to be in a bad spot. Still has the Feather Storm, tries to use it, but it's not going to be too effective as there's 3 people collapsing in onto the bot side. Meanwhile, onto this Rift Herald, MVP, or Team Secret, try to trade this one so they lose their Zaya, but they want to pick this one up instead. First turret likely to go over to MVP as they have this wave crashing in this Dragon lane.
What this tells me is that Team Secret are prioritizing the map more than Chewie, right? They don't care if they have to sacrifice Chewie's farm, they don't care if they sacrifice his levels. They want this Rift Herald to open up the map even more, and they're trading away from the weak side of the map. So this is important to note as the game goes on. Right now, ADC versus ADC, marksman versus marksman. This guy is down 1,500 gold, granted. That's an awful feeling, especially when you are Chewie looking to be focused down in these team fights.
Especially when Papa hits such significant power spikes with those items, you know, having, I believe, almost 2 upgrades now. He's just missing a little bit more attack speed for that second upgrade on his E. With that should give a lot more power to MVP as they start to make their way down towards the Dragon side again. They go back towards standard laning. They get some control here because once that Infernal comes up, you know, MVP are actually in a much better position to try and fight that, I think.
And MVP is in a great position, like you mentioned, because now the lane assignments are a bit wonky for Team Secret. They have to keep Chewie and James in the mid lane because there's no Dragon Tier 1. There's nothing for them to fall back to. And as a result, Tatsuri is the one that has to take the L and sit on the side lane. This also collapses Team Secret's strategy in the big picture because being all the way in the Dragon lane, he cannot out towards the Baron lane. He only has 1 lane to go, and if you're stacking members there, the Galio ultimate is now rendered ineffective.
So MVP doing great job to kind of reduce the effectiveness out from Tatsuri and just take him to school here. Just forcing him back. He's only had that 1 kill so far. You know, he's been able to trade back onto David, but apart from that, hasn't found all too much. Meanwhile, Orianna continues to scale up. James, targeted focus, goes right down. The quick link will not save him. MVP just get a quick pickup and take down this Rakan just as Dragon's about to spawn.
I feel like it might be too early to call this, granted, but I'm going to go ahead and do so. Olaf's win rate is just going to plummet even more here. He's not really doing a lot, despite having this goal lead, right? You don't feel the impact of the Olaf as compared to the Lee Sin, who has made so many good plays across the map 8.5 minutes in.
Yeah, so Olaf, not stonks right now, unfortunately. Let's see if they can do anything here. Okay, as MVP continue to build up their advantage, get a good lead. Albert tries to jump in, looks to knock up onto Trevor, but wasn't quite able to find it. Oh my goodness, that's a great lockdown. They jump onto Chewie. Chewie gets a lot of HP chunked out. The shoot's coming through, though, keeps him healthy for now. Trevor almost goes down. They jump back in. James has to flash away. Tatsuri joins in, but he connects onto no one. And MVP, they are in such prime position to just force Team Secret away. the disengage you're talking about, it's perfect out from MVP.
Yep, it's this pull and push in these 5-on-5s, right? They're not full committing because they know, hey, Tatsuri still has ultimate, Azar still has ultimate. We never want to full commit into these fights because we get bursted down. Instead, what they do is kind of tease Team Secret a little, like, hey, we might just go in to try and kill you, and if we do, and if we posture like we do, you will be forced to use your ultimates to respond, and there's a window there where we can play the map, because Hero's entrance, like I said, has a massive cooldown, and so does Perfect Execution. In that 5-on-5, they were able to get the Hero's entrance down. They still have the Perfect Execution to watch out for.
Yeah, I'm looking at a solo kill potentially onto this Gragas, but instead Pego joins into the fight. He picks up the kill, secures it, claims it on Azar. Now they move on to Hermes. Hermes flashes away, jumps out with the Grand Entrance, but MVP, they're right back in on this. The Redemption gonna use to get them back up to a healthy amount of HP as they walk in, collapse on this turret. Trevor trying his best to defend this, but it's gonna be Oriana Yahtzee who makes his way over as well. They collapse in. Tatsuri does not have the heroic entrance to follow up with the rest of his team, so they gift that one up for free, and they lose Akali to boot.
They have no way of defending that, especially because they know once Oriana comes up, there's so much collateral damage on top of the dive coming in. You just put the ball down, anyone casts Command Shockwave, and that guy dies, right? So I do like the Team Secret, are not Team Secret, excuse me. I do like the MVP understand their windows of strength. Like, hey, no Hero's entrance, let's force this. If they don't have a specific ultimate, we can keep forcing, because on a numbers level, just, pound for pound, player for player, MVP are stronger when they do have their ultimates.
Team Secret kind of just scaling up where they can, but looking at their items right now, it seems difficult for them to really get through MVP's front line, right? Gragas picked up the Sunfire Aegis, picked up the Force of Nature, and you look at the Lee Sin, Pegor has that Guardian Angel too, gives him a lot more time to just deal with the problems and answer Team Secret's engage and kind of fight potential. Look at that, you can't even really lock down on Papa because he's just going to be able to dash out, doesn't even have to use a summoner spell or anything along those lines.
Because of the supercharged invisibility and the movement speed, it's really tough to lock down the Kai'Sa at this point, right? I do like the MVP understand how they have to navigate these fights. What we expect to see from them in the next, minute and a half is they'll continue playing these side lanes. They'll continue baiting out big ultimates from Team Secret, kind of putting them on edge, forcing them to pull the trigger. And when they do, they instantly back out.
Oh, you have to hate to see that. Shui gets knocked back in by the Lee Sin, but instead they turn the fight right back around on Papa. Papa goes down first, and David looking like he's gonna follow. They move on to Yahtzee. Yahtzee watches as his team dies there. Baron coming up now, so Team Secret make their way over. They're looking to try and secure this. Jumping on is going to be Azar, who finds good damage onto the Oriana. Moving into the back, it's going to be Alba trying to trade in. Pegor joining into the fight as well. That's collapsing in onto this mid side to get the knock up onto the Gragas first. Gragas still very tanky. And with the Redemption, they cannot take him down. The Undertow going to be able to connect. Unfortunately, does not mean that the Gragas goes down. Instead, Team Secret lose the chance to go for the Baron, not wanting to play that 50-50 with Pegor.
That was a big debate coming in. I don't know if I cursed them or MVP just decided to just run in for no reason, because the right player there would have been to just wait, right? Kind of step up to mid-tier 1 and not force anything. But I think Pegor is the one to kind of try and find insect in onto members of Team Secret. That's too greedy. You gotta be keeping that Dragon's Rage to disengage, not to force a fight, unless you can find a pick.
Unless you can find Chewie, and it looked like he almost did, but they managed to turn that one around really well. Meanwhile, Dragon goes over to MVP, who managed to reset much faster than Team Secret. The cast was used just to kind of get some displacement. Moving over, back in, Pegor always gets spotted out by Azar. Instead, look at the waves right now. Crashing towards this Baron lane. I think that Team Secret could be able to potentially try and force something while MVP has to respond to that big wave.
Yeah, they have to respond to Baron and Dragon, so this means that if they don't have the wave clear, mid-tier 1 goes down. But thankfully, you have your Oriana, a force though in the mid lane.
Quickening, gonna be used. Yahtzee goes golden to survive a little longer. Papa over by the side, good damage onto the Kai'Sa. Kai'Sa repositioned with a killer instinct, gets back on the turret, and meanwhile, they move back onto the Olaf. Olaf might just go down. Instead, they get a taunt back onto Pegor, who still has his Guardian Angel, by the way. And he just cannot find much here. Flashing forward, Pegor might just go for the kill onto Azar. It's a nice two-man body slam to lock down onto Chewie. Tatsuri joining into the mid lane as well. They continue the aggression, get good damage back onto Pegor as Pegor jumps in. But will be the Winds of War plus the taunt, just try and push him back, force him off. But MVP, they break open the mid lane despite the engage started by Team Secret.
That's what they needed to do, by the way, when they got caught out earlier. This should have been the play. You can see on your screen right now, cooldowns on the side of MVP. Almost done, right? Whereas Team Secret, they're still waiting on quite a few big ticket ultimates. They need the Featherstorm and they need the perfect execution for Azar. Whereas on the side of MVP, everything is up. You know, only Kill Instinct isn't there, but for the most part, all your disengage spells, all your team fight spells are there, and they can continue this pull and push. After getting mid tier 1, the next focus here should be around either Baron or Dragon. So I'm looking towards these two objectives for MVP to kind of dance and skirt around the fight. Bait out the ultimates and then re-engage.
Baron up for both sides now, and it's looking like MVP gets some decent control around that. And you have to wonder, despite the fact that MVP were the ones to get caught out in a couple of these previous exchanges, Team Secret could not convert that into an objective. And so you look at the Dragons right now, Inferno and Ocean both over to MVP. It is going to be that Elder Cloud, not as devastating if Team Secret lose that, and especially if they exchange that for the Baron. But I'm not sure if Team Secret have what it takes to actually start this Baron up and take that away before MVP can respond.
They don't have the kind of coverage around the enemy jungle to start this. If you look at your minimap, they have no wards on the enemy blue buff side of the jungle, so they won't know if they're getting checked, right? They won't know if anyone's walking in, which is why they're so hesitant to even walk up past the river. Whereas on the side of MVP, they at least have 1 or 2 wards deep enough to give them information along the river as well as deep along the Raptors, I believe. They're trying to walk in to try and get their ward down now. So you can see that David is just kind of, you know, walking in to try and get the vision together with Pegor. Both teams contesting for control of vision around the top half of the river.
Because that's going to be so critical. The way the Baron kind of swings the fight and swings the tempo of the match is going to change the dynamics significantly. I think that MVP actually do have a pretty decent composition to deny some of the aggression after Team Secret, even if they would lose the Baron. But of course, it's not a pretty sight to see. So MVP holding on to that, get some vision control. Meanwhile, Azar, you know, he did manage to find the best game last time around. This time, a little better, but it still isn't phenomenal. Okay. And so you have to wonder, is this what Team Secret were looking for when they went for the Akali? They haven't been able to execute the Kai'Sa. They haven't been able to execute the Orianna. Not even able to really take down the Lee Sin here.
To your earlier point, like you mentioned, is this what they want? I think the Akali was drafted in mind with the Olaf in mind, right? The idea of just jumping in and trying to dive onto the squishies, because you have a kind of system here where Azar, Trevor will be looking for the backlines, and then you have Tatsuri to cover any, you know, over-engage. For the most part, MVP have been playing very well around it. I think that's the important part. We should note credit where credit is due. They've been dancing around the edges of fights, not full committing, not allowing Azar or Trevor to really get onto Artsy or Papa.
Dragon started up by MVP. It's the Elder Drake in their eyes. Is Team Secret a little bit late to respond once again. They're just playing second fiddle to MVP. They get some good damage over onto David. Yeah, they engage, they jump onto the Orianna, but Orianna goes gold, and then it's difficult to lock down an Ori that just doesn't want to go down. Instead, they move into the back. The shockwave finally comes out, but it still means Orianna goes down. They jump back in with the Killer Instinct, and so Papa trades back for a little bit more. It's 2 dead on the side of TS. MVP still holding on pretty strong here. They don't manage to pick up the Dragon, but Team Secret, they lose a lot in that exchange.
Papa almost died there. If it wasn't for the Killer Instinct to swap over to his teammates, I think he goes down to Azar. So MVP, they still have Pegor, who is full health. He still has the G and the Force of Nature. So he's always going to be frontlining for them. Dragon's Rage is going to be up in like, what, 15 seconds? This is a window for them to just burst down this Dragon as long as the Kai'Sa doesn't die. The Kai'Sa needs to stay healthy. He can't be tanking the Dragon. He can't be caught in the front line.
Is this right from MVP? They go back on the Elder Drake. They want to start this. But instead, it looks like TS should be able to just grab a turret in the mid lane. Okay, so they were going for something a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more risky, trying to bait out Team Secret. It doesn't quite work, so MVP lose that turret in the mid side, and Team Secret finally open up the map a little bit more in their favor.
Look at the itemization right now. Papa picks up the Locket Enchant. That's a very rare choice for the marksman, and this is because they recognize that he already has some level of evasion. The way he's playing around these fights, he's dancing on the outskirts with the Killer Instinct. So this additional shield for his team, and remember that Locket gives that shield based on levels, not extra HP like League of Legends PC. It's a decent buy. It's a very high efficiency enchant coming in as they force this fight mid lane.
Quickly coming out, they look for the lockdown back on the enemy team. The Orianna goes down before he can even respond, before he can even blink. And guess what? It's going to be Papa that follows right after. And there's just not much you can do in front of the final form out from Team Secret. They get the collapse they were looking for. They take them down. Pego on the wrong side of the map was not there to assist his team. And so Team Secret rushed their way through the mid lane. 40-second death timers left and some of the members of MVP and Team Secret looking like they might just want to end things out before MVP can get back into the game. They have this last wave. It's all their hopes and dreams pinned on this last moment. Pego jumps in, trying to stall out the game. Guardian Angel is available. They look for the taunt onto the Lee Sin. It comes through. It connects. Now the Nexus down to 3,000. They're looking at trying to end things off right now. David all on his lonesome. He tries to defend where he can. Solo on the rest of the members TS, but they cannot stop them. And TS equalize the score 1-1.
MVP there, they got caught on the final fight. Like we said, they have to dance around these 5v5s. They can't take the full-on engage. The moment you run and decide to handshake Team Secret, you lose that fight. Because they have all these big-ticket ultimates that allow them to pick off these squishies. And you rightly pointed out, Pegor, nowhere near the team in that mid lane engage. Because of that, he doesn't have the peel, he doesn't have the Dragon's Rage, his team just dies.
Team Secret managed to equalize things around with that Olaf pick, by the way. And Akali finally coming online in the last moments of that game, ending off with 2-1-2.
Yep.
Very different game from this first one. You know, 7 kills to 8 kills. Not very kill focused. Instead, much more prioritized around that macro game. You can see the goal lead had built up all the way into MVP's favor. Instead, it jumps over to Team Secret at the very end. Very different macro-focused game out from these two teams.
What's funny is both games, the goal graph is the exact same, right? Both teams that are, for both games, the leading team just holds control until they finally take one bad fight and then the game is over, right? It's been this way for Game 1 and Game 2. And I think what this tells me is that both teams, even though they draft well and they answer their opponent